Alright, everybody. I've been talking about this for a little while now, and this issue is going to become more on the forefront of people's minds and more of a serious current talking point as time goes by. As the Republicans are getting more and more mask off with each passing day. This story came into my attention recently. I'm a little late to it, but, you know, it's under a month old. Republican lawmaker rants about contraception going against nature. So if you've been paying attention, you might have noticed that lately the Republicans have basically decided they want to make being gay and trans illegal by any means necessary. They'll find little sneaky loophole ways of getting that passed, you know, whether it be by making it so that being trans in public is like a display of sexual something, and then making any form of sexual display around the child a sex crime towards a child, and then making that have the death penalty, which is actually what they're trying to do. Yeah, like they're really desperately just trying to achieve some very draconian laws. But they have to do it in very clever ways, right? But one of the issues the right doesn't really have to be as mask-on about as with trans people and wanting to, you know, axe gay marriage and stuff like that, is contraception and abortion. Because despite the fact the vast majority of Americans are in favor of access to contraception, access to abortion, access to basically any form of care that could involve termination of a pregnancy, prevention of a pregnancy, or the carrying to term of a pregnancy, the Republicans have desperately tried to make it look like there's an actual debate being had here, when there really isn't. It's just mostly crazy whack jobs who think that contraception is the devil, who don't want women having any form of sexual liberation or freedom in their lives, because if they do, if women can have any form of casual sex without the potential burden and responsibility of having to raise an unwanted child and bring an unwanted pregnancy to term, then they might be able to live their lives like men do. And that can't be allowed, can it? Anyway, a Wisconsin legislator ranted against contraception, as most of his colleagues, including those from his own majority, voted to allow expanded statewide access to birth control. On Wednesday, the Wisconsin State Assembly voted 82-11 in a bipartisan fashion to allow statewide pharmacists to prescribe contraceptive patches and self-administered oral hormonal contraceptions without a doctor's prescription. Current state law only allows women to obtain most birth control through a prescription written by a doctor or advanced practice nurse. Wisconsin State Representative Chuck Witchkers, one of the 11 Republicans who voted against the bill, said Wednesday, prior to the bill's passing, that contraception leads to infidelity, a proliferation of STDs, and is unnatural. Okay, you could make the argument that contraception would make infidelity easier, but, like, think about it for a minute. Infidelity is a thing that people who do things they're not supposed to do, right? Using contraception is a thing you're supposed to do. Do you really think most people who are being, like, cheaters are diligently adhering to whether or not they're going to use, protection? I don't really think it breeds infidelity. Also, infidelity isn't like a cultural corrupting force like the right tries to make it out to be. It's like a poor thing to do to somebody. Like, it's definitely a sign that you've got bad character, but it's like conservatives talk about it like it's like infidelity is a disease poisoning the minds of modern women. And then, of course, you've got the proliferation of STDs. That's exactly the opposite. Particularly condoms and other products such as, like, certain lubes can have, like, extremely effective ways of preventing STDs. Like, yeah, like generally wearing a condom is the best way to prevent getting an STD as a man, at least. Telling your partner to wear a condom is generally the best way to prevent getting an STD as a woman. So, yeah, this is just blatantly untrue. And is unnatural. Ah, yes, the most solid argument I've ever heard. I simply can't argue against it. Currently, 28 states and the District of Columbia allow pharmacists to dispense contraceptives. It opens the door to marital infidelity, and it did, Whitaker said, referencing unknown religious leaders. The government might force contraceptives upon married couples. That's happened in other countries. So the government gets to have a role. They get to play supreme ruler. I don't think so. After being booed by some other members for his remarks, Whitaker's continued on, saying that contraception increases disrespect by men towards women who, quote-unquote, have to control the natural reproductive course of our bodies. This shit's like actual parody. Oh my god. I love this like voice I'm doing for him, by the way. Nature has an intention, and when you have that act, when pregnancy naturally occurs, that's nature doing what nature does. The woman then has to counter nature by taking something that is highly systemic and highly invasive. According to the documents and the books that people that are pro the pill stated in their books, the Republican representative said. Whitaker's continued, that's science. We would begin to see ourselves as the ultimate masters of nature. So when nature does something it's supposed to do, and then we say, let's not do that, we're talking not about getting a pimple if you eat Doritos and eat chocolate. That would be contrary to health movement or nature. He basically just flubbed the end there. Wait, we have a clip. Oh my god. There's a clip of this, chat. We actually have a real clip of this.
Some of the religious leaders.
Okay, he doesn't sound exactly like I thought he did, but I do think my impression is better.
Some of the religious leaders said that historically, back when the pill was being developed, that there were comments of predictions of social behaviors that might exist, and they learned that from other societies in real time when they made these comments, and they said that
so he's just stuttering the whole way through. Okay.
The door to marital infidelity, and it did. And you can
the courtroom's laughing.
You can laugh and mock, but you're laughing and mocking not me, but the people.
All comments will be to the speaker.
The government might force contraceptives upon married couples. That's happened in other countries, and so the government gets to have a role. They get to play supreme ruler. It increases a loss of respect for women, that men get to do whatever they want, and then women have to be able to control the natural reproductive course of the body. Nature has an intention. And
remember, this is all about twisting you having the freedom to do something that you choose to do into a bad thing, where you actually somehow have less rights. They're desperate to try to make this look like an anti-freedom thing. Oh yes, this will make the government force people to get what? It's just whatever they can think of. The most deranged, made-up fantasy world they can think of to try to make you believe your freedom is actually bad for you somehow.
And when you have that act, a pregnancy naturally occurs. That's nature doing what nature does. And then
I wonder if he'd say the same thing about rape.
The woman has to counter nature by taking something that is highly systemic and highly invasive, according to the documents in the books that people that are pro the pill stated in their books. That's a science. We would begin to see ourselves as the ultimate masters of nature. So when nature does something it's supposed to do, and then we say, let's not do that. And we're talking not about, getting a pimple if you eat Doritos and drink chocolate or eat chocolate. That would be
he's just gaffing and fumbling his way through this. He's like desperate to do this. He doesn't have He doesn't really seem like he has any media training, you know? I feel like Ben Shapiro or another right-wing demagogue could have made this argument better and more effectively for an audience of very gullible people to accept. But this guy just has no charisma and no rhetorical skills, so he's just fumbling and gaffing his way through it, and the court is literally laughing at him.
Contrary to a health movement or nature, that doesn't improve your health. It makes you less healthy, and there's side effects. In real time, our nation is having some of the same things with a proliferation of STDs as a result of...
Yes. STDs are becoming a big problem. We should get rid of contraceptives. I'm sure that'll solve the problem. Said no smart person in the history of existence ever, in any timeline.
Going into well, I don't have to worry about pregnancy, so, men don't have to worry, women don't have to worry about pregnancy, so...
Okay. So, the funny thing here is, he's trying to make it seem like it would be a bad thing for women to have the ability to terminate a pregnancy, because that would put the responsibility on the woman to terminate the pregnancy. That is the level of reaching these people are trying for, to justify their desire to cut off your access to contraceptives, which is their end game. These people may not have anywhere near a majority in their positions of power or in the opinion of this country. That doesn't matter. Trump appointed several Supreme Court judges. We have a hard right-wing Supreme Court right now. Things are a little scary. Things are a little scary depending on who you are and what rights you're worried about losing. Because the Republicans have indicated they do not want to leave contraception untouched in their time they have with as much power as they do with the Supreme Court. Gay marriage is also on the chopping block. Bill 176, which will now be considered by the Wisconsin Senate, requires the state's Pharmacy Examining Board, Board of Nursing, and the Department of Health Services to promulgate rules to establish standard procedures. It would also require pharmacists to send a report to the patient's primary healthcare practitioner following a prescription with the contraception to be dispensed as soon as practical. It would also prohibit pharmacists from prescribing or dispensing contraceptives, unless patients fill out a self-assessment questionnaire and undergo a blood pressure screening. Wisconsin State Representative Joel Kitchens, a Republican who authored the bill, lauded that Assembly's vote as a pragmatic step forward. He cited statistics from the Guttmacher Institute, which says the number of abortions dropped by 25% between 2008 and 2014 due to increased access to contraceptions. This bill makes it easier for women to get contraceptives, why can't I say it, no matter where they live in Wisconsin, and make sure that the use of the drugs are safe for each woman before they get them, Kitchens said in a statement. With more access to effective birth control, there will be fewer unplanned pregnancies and fewer abortions, which is, of course, the entire point, right? The same crowd that wants to ban abortions wants to ban contraceptives also wants to ban abortions, but contraceptives are the best solution to stopping abortions. Abortions are a worst-case scenario. Like, having to terminate an already existing pregnancy is awful, but if you can prevent them in the first place with contraceptives, that is ideal. That is the best-case scenario. Republicans would argue by saying, well, we'd go a step further and say abstinence-only education is the best way to prevent any unwanted pregnancy. And it's like, okay. Unfortunately, reality disagrees, so we're going to have to find an actual solution. But they don't want an actual solution. What they want is to instill cultural control of women through the government. And one of the best ways to do that is by making it so as that women who are anywhere near as sexually explorative and non-committal as men are and have been for literal centuries, they will be punished with the, basically your life being over and having to become a parent for like 18 years. That is the consequence women in their world would get for having the same sex habits as any man. They want to be promiscuous, they want to have lots of sex with lots of different people, but they don't want women to have that ability. They want women to be basically broodmares for one man, and that one man has a bunch of women, and any woman who even just doesn't want to be in a committed relationship is, in their opinion, currently a lost soul who has yet to find their purpose and yet to find their value. It's why a lot of these like incel red pill bro types lately have been moving more towards Islam, because of like the memeified version of Islam that like they believe in, where it's like, oh, I get to have like this harem of women, like I get to have like a polygamous like lineup of wives, and they only get to like be with me and no one else. Like that's like their ideal world, right? Where like they have a group of women that belong to them sexually and as like wives that do their bidding and listen to what they do and serve them. They're like, those women are their property. It's like it's the average red pill misogynist dream, and that core mindset is what drives the average Republican man's desire to eviscerate rights to access to contraception.